So I was just sent this article, Living in Puerto Rico Where the Taxes Are Low and Crypto Thrives. I wanted to break down this article. I've highlighted some areas that kind of give statements and then give my context as a bona fide Puerto Rico resident and very familiar with the laws and the taxes here. That way we can kind of illuminate the truth behind what's going on here, because the news tends to really blow the Puerto Rico tax situation out of proportion. So let's go ahead and take a look at this article. And this is by CoinDesk, so it's very crypto focused, very capital gains focused, but I'll give my context for the various programs here. So they start off by saying the founding father of the Ethereum blockchain, or one of the founders, Andrew Keys, moved to Puerto Rico in January of 2018. And they say he's a big fan of moving to Puerto Rico, and they say the reason is clear as the island waters. Puerto Rico is a tax haven. That's true for everyone, but the island's offhand approach to capital gains, income, and business taxes is just what pro-capitalist state skeptics look for in a residence. So, I mean, yes, those who are looking to lower their tax bill, everyone who's looking to lower their tax bill has at least looked at the idea of Puerto Rico. And you notice that trend here for the people who actually make the move to Puerto Rico. Those are people who are very conscious of just trying to save money, trying to maximize whatever they currently have. It says here, Puerto Rico is awesome. This is by Keys, that one of the Ethereum founders. He said it's a beautiful Caribbean island. It's safe. And yes, I would agree it's very safe. I live in a very public area, and although some of the streets might not look safe, like if you just look at the street, look at the buildings, because things are still recovering from the hurricane in 2017. However, it's very safe. The people are extremely friendly. I've noticed nothing that made me feel unsafe living here. So I definitely have to agree with the safe aspect here. Sure, there's bad areas, but there's bad areas everywhere, and generally it's been very friendly and nice here. It has what I would consider one of the most entrepreneurial-minded communities that are building all sorts of different businesses. This I would absolutely agree with. I found this actually fascinating. You know, I thought that this would be the case. I didn't quite expect the extent of that, though, because what has ended up happening I didn't quite expect the extent of this, though, because what's ended up happening is everyone that I meet here is like a legitimate successful entrepreneur or trader, or they're doing something inherently very interesting. And it's interesting because there's this kind of filter where it doesn't make sense to move here tax-wise. You know, there's plenty of other reasons that you may want to move here: beaches, friendly people, good food, things like that. But tax-wise, it doesn't exactly make sense unless you're making a good amount of money. So there's this filter where it's people who are inherently successful and have proven success and track records that are moving here. So you meet these people and you're like, oh, wow, that person made that. You're doing this interesting thing. You have this large business. It's really cool, the community here of very entrepreneurial people, very creative people, and yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I've definitely never experienced anything quite like this, and I'm looking forward to meeting more and more people who are entrepreneurial minded and doing awesome things like I have so far. In 2012, Puerto Rico passed two laws. Act 20 and Act 22 combined, they now call them Act 60, meant to court entrepreneurs and corporations. Act 20 sets a 4% tax for business that exports services. So yes, there's a 4% tax, but there's a lot more to this. You also have to pay yourself a reasonable wage that gets taxed normally, and that adds up to a hefty tax bill. There's additional filing fees. There's a lot more to it than just the 4%. I figure you have to make about $200,000 a year for the math to make sense tax-wise. And still, just for some perspective, my single largest expense by far is still taxes. Still will be taxes. So although taxes are much lower, it's still, expensive, especially if you have a business that isn't very asset heavy, that isn't expensive to run. If your margins are very high, like digital services, then tax is still probably going to be your highest expense. They say here, Act 22 is the real draw. Though it's officially a part of the United States, the island has cordoned itself off from the mainland's tax code and exempts residents from taxes on capital gains. That makes it the only place on U.S. soil where income from investments, interest, and dividends is untaxed. All you have to do is spend 183 days per year on an island known for its pearl white beaches and dark rums. Okay, that is a big exaggeration. So Act 22, it's an amazing program if you're doing a lot of trading, if you have a lot of capital gains. For most people, This is not the program. You don't want to be a part of this program because it's expensive. It costs at least $15,000 every single year to be a part of this program. So that means you need to be selling about, $100,000 to $150,000 a year in gains to save just what you're paying in filing fees and things like that. So if you're trading a ton, if you have a ton of capital gains, then yes, but it's not even close to as simple as moving here, living here for 183 days, and boom, all of a sudden, no capital gains, no taxes on interest or dividends. It is much more complicated than that. And then on top of that, just becoming a part of the program takes months and months and months. I mean, just something as simple as getting a driver's license here is very complex and takes a long time. So yes, it's an awesome program. If you fit within that very high criteria, then it's absolutely worth doing it, but it's not even like I can't even express how far away it is from just simply flying here and all of a sudden you get tax benefits. Also, gains accrued before you move here don't have any savings on capital gains. You still have to pay capital gains on that. So you can't like make $1 million in some cryptocurrency, move here and then pay no taxes. It's only gains after you've moved here and been a part of the program. So there's a lot of important details. I actually have a video that breaks down all the specifics on this. I'll pin that above. This person says, I wouldn't call it a loophole. I would agree. I would just call it a tax strategy like any other way that you lower your taxes. Everyone has some way that they're lowering their taxes, especially if you're a small business owner or an investor. It's just another strategy. It's how far do you want to go? Plenty of jurisdictions, many of them tropical paradises, compete for treasure by offering low or no taxes. Some, like El Salvador, are directly appealing to the Bitcoin community, but only Puerto Rico offers residents an easy way to keep their U.S. citizenship. And this is true. A lot of people have messaged me and sent comments and things like that who say, like, why don't you just move here? There's this benefits. Because I wanted to keep my U.S. citizenship. That's why. And Puerto Rico is the only way to get tax savings and keep your citizenship. So I don't have to get a visa to go and visit my parents or whatever. This doesn't mean you're likely to find suits wandering the sandy shores, and this is true as well. If you're just out in public, you don't know. You know, like this guy could be a billionaire over here wearing flip-flops. You really don't know. And that's part of the mystique here that you don't really see those folks. No one looks like ultra successful entrepreneurs or traders or crypto folk here. It's interesting. Then if we scroll down a little bit, there's some opinions back and forth as to whether people moving to Puerto Rico actually helps out the local economy or not. So this person said, if there was any tangible effect crypto's wealth has had on the island's recovery efforts, it was likely made at the individual level or it was too local to be noticed. This is one of those things that's kind of tough because yes, the people moving here are saving taxes. But if they hadn't moved here, the island wouldn't receive any taxes whatsoever because there still are other things like, paying yourself a reasonable wage and the taxes on that. The sales tax is higher here than any other state. It's 10.5%. There's still plenty of ways that Puerto Rico is receiving tax. And how do you measure on an individual basis how much a person's taxes are actually benefiting the local economy? Like when I lived in Arizona, how do I know what my taxes are actually going towards? So it's tough to know. Obviously, it has some impact because there's more money in the economy. Even going to the grocery store, you're spending money at that grocery store versus one somewhere else. So it has to be doing something, but I don't know exactly the level of what it's doing. I've had a bunch of Puerto Ricans that have made money in crypto by investing in it, but in terms of crypto companies creating high-paying jobs for locals, we haven't been able to really make that flourish just yet. And I would agree with that. As far as the business owners that I know here, it seems like the employment link hasn't quite been made yet, where a business will move here, but they'll bring their employees with, which kind of happens. It's already a successful business, and they're just bringing their successful employees with. So that's something that I would like to see some connection here. Maybe programs that are aligning businesses and workers here in Puerto Rico. But again, I don't have all the solutions, but I would agree. I haven't seen that necessarily happening yet either. Making a blockchain island. So this woman moved to Puerto Rico with 2 cases and a new title, executive director of the Blockchain Trade Association in Puerto Rico. And from her perspective, the tax incentive program has largely helped the country. But like I said, not everyone agrees. This person said it's kind of sickening how the corporations are there to take advantage of the 4% export tax, do absolutely nothing to improve the local economy. Obviously, there's more money here, so you can't say it's doing nothing. But to what level are they helping? I'm not really sure. So there's complaints about people living basically together while many other Puerto Ricans are in poverty. We have these kind of like rich communities like Dorado, where the rich people kind of tend to migrate into those communities, and it's like a little ecosystem in itself where there's schools right there, and that's exactly what this article says. But also we have to remember that's what rich people do always. There's rich neighborhoods, there's rich areas, there's rich islands. Everywhere in the United States, rich people want to live by other rich people. So I don't really see a difference, except the fact that they're moving here, they're getting tax benefits, and they're also kind of isolating. And it was also mentioned in here that there's not very many nice areas in, like affluent areas. So it's kind of like, and the whole island is small in itself, so it makes sense that these people are all kind of crowding in one area. I actually decided against moving to one of those ecosystems and kind of living just in the middle of the city, because I wanted to experience the island more and experience the new kind of environment and immerse myself and kind of do things like force myself to have to learn Spanish and integrate a little bit more instead of just kind of being in mainland United States, just in a neighborhood in Puerto Rico. So that definitely happens, but it's just comfort zone. It's just people moving somewhere that's the most comfortable for them. So again, I don't really blame people for that. And this person basically says the same thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Although the rich may escape paying capital gains taxes, they still contribute to the state. Keys noticed that he pays corporate income tax, property taxes, sales tax. There's infinite taxes that people still have to pay, albeit potentially lower. So, that's a good way to summarize it. Yes, there's still taxes. There's great savings if it aligns with your business. If your business has high profit margins and you don't need to be in any physical location, yeah, it's great to move to Puerto Rico, save some of your money, reinvest that, get that kind of like wheel turning even sooner in your life. The way I look at it is I'm saving years of my life in saving taxes, and this will allow me to do more interesting and larger things sooner than later. And of course, I think it's important that local communities and Puerto Rico as a whole benefits from the people moving here. But I also feel like it's hard for Puerto Rico not to benefit from just the influx of just regular spending and kind of the invisible hand of the markets of people living here. I go to the grocery store, I spend $100. That's going to the local economy, but I think it's important that things build up as well, local charities and, cleaning up the streets and helping out the locals here and employing the locals here. So I think that's all important as well. So there's some good points here. There's some points that, maybe need some more context on the ease of actually making it happen. It's definitely not for everyone, but it's a good option. So, so that's going to do it. If you enjoyed this, just make sure you hit the like button. I'd like to thank you for watching and hope you have a profitable day.